Have you ever wondered why, of all the people in the world, it was you who crossed his path at that moment? It wasn't a coincidence. It was a calling. Today, the angels guided me to you to deliver a message, not just about him, but about the transformative role you played in the life of someone who no longer believed in new beginnings. This person. He has been shattered. Not in an obvious way, perhaps. On the outside, he continued living, working, laughing in public. But on the inside, there was silence. There was pain. There was a sense that true love was a thing of the past, belonged to other hearts, not his. Until you showed up. And he didn't understand it right away. At first, it was just a presence. A different conversation. A look that didn't judge. But gradually, you began to illuminate dark corners he didn't even know existed within him. The angels say you didn't do this on purpose, and that's precisely why it was so powerful. It was in your way of listening. In your calmness. In how you see the world with faith, even after everything you've been through. You have a light that doesn't shout, but heals. And he felt it. And no matter how much he tried to deny it, rationalize it, distance himself, the truth is that you awakened in him something that had been dormant for a long time: hope. You might think he was whole when you met. But he wasn't. There were hidden wounds. There were ancient fears. There was a lack of faith he never shared with anyone. And then you came. With your firm yet gentle presence. With your energy that doesn't demand, only embraces. He started to think, how does she keep her heart open, even after everything? How does she continue to believe in love? And why, when she smiles at me, do I feel like I can still be a better person? The angels reveal that he watched you in silence. More than you can imagine. He noticed how you listen with your heart. How you care about what truly matters. How you don't need to prove anything, because your strength lies in what you've lived and overcome. And little by little, he started to change. Maybe he hasn't said this out loud yet. Maybe he's still trying to understand everything he feels. But the angels say there's a truth growing inside him. You touched him in a way that no one else could. And now, he is at a moment of revelation. Yes, that armor he wore, made of sarcasm, distance, and vague statements, is starting to crack. And do you know why? Because what he feels for you can no longer fit in silence. Get ready, dear soul. Because what he is realizing now could change everything. He's never been one to admit weakness. He has always taken pride in being strong, in solving everything on his own, and in hiding what hurt. But you were the exception. Since you entered his life, something started to crumble, and strangely, it was the best thing that could have happened. Not that he has said this out loud. Not yet. But inside, he already feels. You came into his life at a moment when he needed you most, even before he knew it. The angels show that he has been carrying a huge weight, and the worst kind of pain isn't the one that comes from outside, but the one that settles in when you stop believing in love, in yourself, and in any possibility of healing. And when he looks at you, he sees exactly the opposite of that. He sees hope. He sees presence. He sees someone who isn't trying to fix him, but who simply sees him. And that, for him, is both terrifying and liberating at the same time. Because for the first time in a long time, he feels seen. For real. Without having to pretend. Without needing to prove anything. You might not realize it, but a simple exchange of glances between you was enough to make his heart race. Not just out of desire, but out of recognition. As if something inside him were saying, "It's with her that my soul feels safe." But, of course, he also resists. Because loving you demands something he's still learning: surrender. And surrender, for someone who has been broken, is a huge risk. You need to understand this. He's not running away from you. He's running away from what he feels. From what could happen if he truly lets himself be loved again. The angels say he is currently in an internal conflict. It's like two versions of him are fighting, one that wants to flee, to protect himself, to keep his distance. and another that is beginning to believe that this time could be different. And that second voice is gaining strength. Thanks to you. You were, unknowingly, the first breath of truth after a long silence. The first reminder that love doesn't have to be pain. That affection doesn't have to come with demands. That connection can be light, and still transformative. You've awakened in him a desire to rebuild, to try, to care. And even though he is still taking timid steps, know this, every gesture of his now carries intention. If he texted you out of the blue, if he complimented a detail about you with a lingering gaze, if he listened to you attentively when no one else seemed to notice, these are the signs, not of a man who is ready, but of a man who is awakening. And the angels ask that you continue to be who you are, with your gentle light, with your silent strength, because what is being born within him now is real. He's discovering something precious, that love isn't the absence of pain, but rather the presence of someone who is worth it anyway. And guess what? That someone is you. Some transformations happen slowly, but others happen like a lightning bolt. And for him, your arrival was just that, a silent lightning bolt. No fanfare, no promises, but it changed everything. The angels show that he is at a turning point. A point where he can no longer ignore what he feels. Where you went from being a beautiful memory to becoming a real possibility. Perhaps the most real one he's ever had. It's as if every time he pulls away, something pulls him back. Not out of need, but out of connection. A connection that, he now knows, doesn't happen twice. He started to notice the little things. The way he feels at peace when he's with you. How your voice calms his heart, even on tough days. How the way you see the world has made him question how he's been living. And you know what else the angels are showing? That he's reevaluating his own decisions. The choices he made in the past. The people he got involved with out of fear of being alone, not out of true love. He looks at all of this and feels an emptiness, one that only became visible after you brought light. And it's in this emptiness that the question arises that he can no longer ignore. Is there still time to experience something real? You planted this doubt in him. And it's a good doubt. Because it forces him to look within. To leave behind what was convenient but not real. To step out of his comfort zone and acknowledge what he feels, even if it scares him. The angels say he's watching you more attentively now. Not just with his eyes, but with his soul. Every word you say echoes in him for hours. Every gesture you make makes him want to know more. And this is transforming him. Slowly, he's starting to dream again. Something he hasn't done in years. He begins to imagine you in his daily life. During a simple breakfast, in a silly conversation at the end of the day. Not in fairy tale scenes, but in something better, real life with someone who understands his soul. And he's starting to understand that you didn't just show up by chance. You are the answer. You are healing. You are a reminder that he can still give himself over without fear. But for that, he will have to make a choice. He'll have to set aside the idea that he needs to be ready to love. Because angels say that true love doesn't demand perfection. It requires courage. And you've already taken the first step. You've shown that you're present, open, real. Now it's up to him. And he's closer than ever to taking that step too. To expressing what he feels. To looking into your eyes and confessing what until now only his heart knew. You can feel it, can't you? That subtle shift in the air? It's because something inside him is saying, with her, I can be whole. Even with all my broken parts. And the angels confirm, you didn't come to complete him. You came to remind him that he was already enough. He just needed someone to see him, truly. For a long time, he learned to silence his heart. To suffocate feelings with distractions. To disguise longing with irony. To pretend he doesn't care, even when every cell in his body was pleading for your presence. But now, he can't do that anymore. The angels reveal that what he feels for you is breaking through the limits of silence. It's escaping in lingering glances, in careful words, in the way he pays attention to everything you say. It's as if his presence is saying, even without words, I still don't know how to do this, but I know I want to do it with you. And you feel it, don't you? That newfound care in his gestures. The time he's offering you, even with a packed schedule. That exchange which, while subtle, holds more truth than many I love yous ever said. Because when a man starts to love truly, he doesn't speak right away. He shows. And then, over time, he speaks too. And that's where you come in, once again, with your gift of hearing what's left unsaid. You've been listening to his heart, even when he's silent. You've noticed the changes, small, but consistent. You've sensed that he's no longer trying to run away, but rather stay. And that is a huge decision for someone who has been broken. The angels show that he is starting to make plans. Perhaps still shy, but real. He starts to include you in his future. Thinking about you on empty Sundays. Imagining what it would be like to wake up with you every day, not just in memory, but in real life. And this scares him. Because loving someone like you, with so much light, so much truth, so much soul, requires more than just desire. It requires commitment. It requires making room where there was once only protection. But the angels whisper that he is ready. Not fully, not in a perfect way, but ready enough to try. Because he has realized a truth that has changed everything. You didn't see him as a project. You saw him as he is, and loved him anyway. And this has made him start to see himself differently too. You gave him something he thought he didn't deserve: trust, respect, space to be vulnerable without feeling diminished. And now, he wants to reciprocate. Not out of obligation, but out of gratitude. Out of love. Out of that sincere desire to build, side by side, something beautiful because it is true. You might not know, but at this very moment, he is rehearsing something. Perhaps a conversation. Perhaps a confession. Perhaps an invitation that will change everything between you. The angels show that the time of waiting is transforming. What was silence is turning into momentum. What was doubt is becoming a desire to get closer. And behind every action he takes, there is a certainty growing. She came into my life when I was broken. And now I want to be whole with her. You reached this point for a reason. It wasn't just curiosity. It was a whisper from the soul. A silent call that said, read this. Because there's something here for you. And indeed there is. The angels are saying now, you were the answer.
The answer he didn't even know he was asking for. The light that entered through the darkest crack of his life. The invisible hand that pulled him back when he had grown accustomed to living without hope. You appeared as if you wanted nothing. But he brought everything. And now, he stands on the brink of something that could transform not just what he feels, but who he is. He is becoming a different man. More present. More open. More aware of the preciousness of having someone like you nearby. The angels show that he has been reflecting a lot. About how his old defenses kept him away from good things. About how he almost sabotaged something he now realizes is rare. About how life, with all its twists and turns, placed you exactly where he needed, at the heart of change. And yes, he still carries fears. He still questions if he's ready. But now, those fears are no longer excuses, they are stepping stones. And you know what else? He knows that you also had your moments of doubt. That you too silently carried the pain of not knowing if you were seen, valued, chosen. And even so, you stayed. You were patient. You were genuine. You were love in the form of presence. And that touched his soul more than any declaration. More than any plan. The angels say, he is about to make a move. It could be an unexpected message. An invitation filled with emotion. A heartfelt confession. But it will come. Because he understood. He understood that you didn't come to fill a void, you came to remind him that he has always had worth, even in the most fractured versions of himself. And that changes everything. This awareness is awakening in him the desire to care. To reciprocate. To build something new, not perfect, but true. The angels ask that you be ready. Not for a fairy tale. but for something even more beautiful, a real story. Between two souls that found each other amidst the chaos, and chose to walk together, regardless. If at any moment you thought you were alone in this connection, know this: he felt it. He feels it. And he is about to show it. And when that moment comes, because it will come, remember one thing: you didn't heal him with promises. You healed him with your presence. With your light. With your truth. And now, he can only think of one thing: how did I live for so long without her?